I'm going to wait for her encore to sing with her. Then tomorrow she's opening, we're swapping it. So one way or the other, I'll find a way of seeing people.
Oh, that's interesting you rotate it.
Yeah, but you can't really give friends quality time when you're on tour. It's like, it's like, it's about me, not you.
Exactly.
So I'm rolling.
Okay, he's rolling.
So, you're talking about performing with Cindy.
Yeah.
You perform for her towards the end of her set, or vice versa. I know you did a version of Girls Don't Just Want to Have Fun, Boys Just Want to Have Fun.
Yeah.
Tell me about, first of all, what was her reaction to that?
I don't think she heard it, actually. But we do a little bit of my one at the beginning of her. Basically what we do is we do this acoustic version. I sing a verse and then I sing Boys Just Want to Have Fun. Then she goes into her, obviously, classic hit. But it's a difficult one because I kind of wanted to do that song in the show, but it's her big hit. So if I do it in my set, I'll probably do it when I do my own shows because it's a great song. It's a great song. Everybody knows that song. We do it slightly more reggae-fied and it's a bit more laid back, but it's quite fun to sing Boys Just Want to Have Fun, Pretend that we live in a world where everyone's equal,
What, having two, guys had such great success, especially in the 80s. What was it like coming together? And, I don't know if you guys were close and friends like during the 80s and so forth, but what was it like coming together for this?
Well, we've known each other for a long time and we've kind of met up sporadically over the years. We've always kind of been very friendly, but it wasn't until she invited me to do her charity, True Colours, at Christmas that we actually got to physically perform together. And we were like, it's really weird that we've known each other for so long. We've never done any shows together. So we just said, let's do something. And then I sort of said it to my manager, and the next thing, it was booked and sold out, and here we are. So, I think it's a good ticket. It's quite a bonkers ticket, Boy George and Cyndi Lauper. It's kind of, I might start doing it with like all my favourite girl singers. I might try and do it with Debbie Harry, or maybe get Patti Smith to do something. It's quite a good, it's just a good night out, I think, the show.
And what's the audience like? Is it like kind of like your throwbacks, or do you get a lot of younger people who are?
I think people love music, and I think you just get. I've never been able to kind of look out and define my audience. There's obviously people that you recognise that have been with you throughout. There are people that travel. There's people that have come from Latvia. They do the whole tour. England. From Switzerland, there's some characters you're like, oh my God, hi, how are you? You're here again? And they do the whole tour. They travel by car. It's amazing. And then you just get, that you get I get a lot of kind of gothy kids because of the makeup and that association. So you get a lot anyone who's into dressing up and makeup, they kind of seem to be attracted to Boy George and possibly Cyndi Lauper. And then you get like people that just love music, you cannot define your audience. You just look out and go, oh, hi. Lots of old ladies like me.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what I did to deserve it, but I'm happy.
Now, how does this differ from when you go out on tour with Culture Club? I think that's happening a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm doing Cindy, then I go off with Culture Club. We start in Australia, then we're doing Asia, then we're coming back to America. It's different in the sense that obviously I don't do so many of my own things. I would say the Culture Club show is a little bit more, we can throw things in my show. With my own band, I can say, let's do this song. Culture Club are a little bit less flexible like that. They like to do things, stick to things. Whereas with me, I can sort of turn around to my musical director and say, let's put this song in, let's try this, let's do an acoustic version of this. So I feel like my own shows are a little bit more anarchic, a little bit more free, I enjoy that. But then I also enjoy the kind of discipline of Culture Club. It's a bigger band. It's a bit more, there's a bit of a bigger circus. So you have to kind of really stick to what you're doing. But I enjoy both. On this, the Cyndi shows, I'm doing some quite obscure things that I've done, and people seem to like that. But with the Culture Club show, I think people want to just hear the hits. Mm-hmm. They want to hear what they know. So that's what we do.
But you guys are, correct me if I'm wrong, coming out, like, trying to do some new music, correct?
Well, I wouldn't say we were trying.
Okay, sorry.
Because, like, it's what we do. It's like saying, you're trying to be an interviewer. I mean, we are musicians. I mean, it's a weird thing. It's like, you know, the music industry is obsessed with what's new. I mean, artists are getting younger and younger. And it seems like the industry, not only in the UK, but also in America, is obsessed with, like, oh, what's new, you know? And they kind of forget about, you know, sort of older artists who pull huge audiences. I mean, last year we did an iHeart concert in LA with like Billy Idol and Tears for Fears, and it was electrifying. You know, so there's a whole market of people out there that just get ignored. You know what I mean? They just get ignored because the music industry is kind of just, it's all about finding what's new, you know. We're getting to the point where like artists are going to be a year old. They've been making their first album at 2. But, you know, I think one of the great things about live performing is, you know, you're really in control of that. And it's, you know, it's the place where you can be 100% authentic. You know, nobody else can be you in a live show. You know, people can be you on social networks. They can pretend to be you on Twitter and Facebook and all of that. But in the live arena, you know, and if you're good at doing live shows, that's where you can really, you know, make your mark. And I think in the last few years, you know, it's all become about live shows. Nobody sells records anymore. You know, it's all about live concerts. And for me, you know, I've kind of grown into the live thing. I really enjoy it now. I feel very confident on stage. I feel like I really connect with my audience. And plus, you know, there's a lot of love out there. It isn't like a hostile audience. You know, you're going into it's like going to a family reunion. You know, people are like happy to see you. They've grown up with you. They dig the music. So it's a win-win situation. You have to be pretty bad not to have a good show.
You know, a lot of things that veteran acts sometimes face is sometimes they want to do some new stuff, but, you know, the audience has come to hear this, you know, the classic songs they've grown up with and so forth. How do you balance that? Well,
you always, I mean, I DJ as well, and when you DJ, you've got to give people bits of what they know, bits of new stuff. You're always juggling, you know, whoever you are, you know. I think as a musician, I'm probably a little bit more open-minded when I go to a show because I understand what goes into making a record. So I'm a little bit more kind of open-minded. But if I go and see one of my favorite bands, I want to hear the things I know as well, you know. And I'm open to hearing new things, but you've always got to balance it. You know, don't do too many new things. But, you know, you can tell whether people like it, you know. And I think audiences in general are much more open-minded. It's about your attitude on stage, you know. If you're going to go on stage and like perform your old hits with a sort of begrudging tone, then people aren't going to be so open to hearing a new thing. Do you know what I mean? But if you're going on and saying, these songs are as valuable as these new songs, and, you know, you just bring, it's all about vibe. Everything I think in life is about context and intention. So, you know, when you go on stage, you go on there to have a good time. You know, and you smile and you engage with the audience and you invite them in. And, you know, for me, I've got better at that as I've got older. I never was good at that when I was younger. I was a bit like insecure on stage. Now I'm like, this is my domain. You know, this is where I'm in charge. And I really enjoy it.
What was the change? Like, was it just time or?
It's experience, but it's also changing your mindset. I think for me, one of the big things was realizing that being Boy George is my job. You know, it's what I do. You know, when I go on stage, I'm like, I'm going to work. You know, like some people go to the office. There was a great interview with Freddie Mercury when he did Rock in Rio, and he said something like, I'm just like a housewife. And she's like, really? He goes, yeah. And I understand what he meant. It's like, you've got to start looking at what you do, you know, on stage. This is your job, and you try and go on and be like the best version of yourself that you can be. You know, because especially here, people haven't seen me for a while. They're not sure what to expect. You know, it's really funny. The other night in Boston, I came on and I was doing the song and I saw these two guys like whispering. And I was like, what did you say? And he said, we were saying you look great. I said, oh, good. Because it would be very disappointing if you weren't. But I really look at the audience when I go on stage. And I really, you know, I look into their faces. I don't close my eyes. I really try to, I feel like my performance is about emotional connection. I want to connect with people, you know, whether it's like a romantic song or a happy song, you know, you want to kind of just put that out there. And, you know, I think that really kind of resonates with the audience.
As you said, you have had, you have your performing, but you're also a DJ. We've also seen you on reality shows, and now you're going to be on the Celebrity Apprentice. As far as some of the reality stuff that you do, how enjoyable, I mean, obviously you're doing it, but how enjoyable is that compared to, like, that dimension of Boy George?
I always laugh when people call it reality TV. It's got nothing to do with reality. It's like, this is TV, it's not the real world. I've always been very careful what sort of things I do. I've done The Voice, which is a music show, so I don't really think of that as reality. And The Apprentice, I think, is kind of a thinking man's reality. You know, you have to work. I mean, that's the kind of shock when you do this show and you're like, oh, I have to actually do this? You know, the first few days, it's like you wake up and you do these tasks and you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then after a few days, it just becomes completely normal. And you find yourself, you know, invigorated by the tasks. And actually, you know, there are some things that you do where you think, oh my God, I never would have thought of myself doing this, but I'm quite good at this. So it's kind of, it's sort of, you know, I think these days, you know, as an artist, you have to be slightly entrepreneurial. You know, as I said earlier, nobody really sells records anymore. I mean, Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, I think the young kids sell lots of records. But for an older kind of artist, for a more of a sort of heritage, vintage kind of artist, you have to think outside of the box. You have to be creative. And, you know, I suppose the way I look at it, I've had an incredible, incredible career. And now it's about, like, what can I do now? What are the challenges? You know, what's going to excite me? What's going to make me motivated? And I think for me, Celebrity Apprentice, you know, it kind of brought out my kind of business, you know, kind of brain. You know, I don't really think of myself as a business person. I think of myself more as a kind of creative type person. But it's quite nice to be challenged, you know, physically and mentally. So I would say that The Apprentice is, you know, it's a smart show. It's not like just people sitting there bitching at each other. But there is some of that.
I was going to ask about that. So, you know, there's always, like, the drama. I don't know. You said it's not reality. I don't know how much of it is manufactured. Like, will we see Boy George, like, throwing a chair or throwing water in someone's face?
No, none of that. No, none of that. But I can't tell you anymore. It's like, shh, my lips are sealed.
Can you tell me if you got along with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Arnie is great as the host of Celebrity Apprentice. He is funny, some great one-liners. You know, there was some great banter between him and the contestants. And he's good. I think people are going to be really surprised. He's really good at it. Totally different energy to, you know, our potential president. But he's cool. He's really cool. I really liked him.
Could you have done it with a Trump? Like, would you have?
I don't know if I'd have done it with him, but yeah, probably. Probably would have had a few rows with him. He's not someone that holds back, is he? You know, I mean, I watched Cindy on The Apprentice with Donald Trump, and I was like, ooh, you know, he was kind of strong, right? I mean, he says what he thinks. But yeah, no, but I didn't, so.
Now, another thing, you talked about being on The Voice, and you talked about being careful about the type of things that you sign up for.
Yeah.
What were some of have you ever been offered, I'm sure you have, but what are some of the things you're like, okay, we're not going there?
I think most of them really. That's no point in naming any of them. But yeah, I've been asked to do lots of things. But, you know, it's like, you know, in our business, you know, every day you get offers for things. Every day you have meetings, and not all of them come through, you know, not all of them happen. You kind of get used to sort of going, oh, well, next thing, you know. It isn't like a regular job, like a 9-to-5 job, being a musician, being a public person. You're always thinking on your feet. You're always kind of, you know, weighing up things. Is this the right thing to do? Maybe this week it is, and next week it's not. You know, it really depends.
You have had such an amazing career and such an amazing life, and you've gone through your struggles. You've talked about your drug addiction, different other things, and here you are, looking healthy, looking great. And in some ways, I would imagine you could be a model for other people coming up. Like, what do you tell some of the younger people who might be struggling, or might not even with drugs, but might be going through difficult times?
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, I always say enjoy it. Enjoy this one. To do what I do, to do what we do in this business is such a wonderful job. It's to do the thing you love and get paid for it. It's kind of like, it's quite bonkers. And I don't know whether when I was like 20 years old or 25 years old, if somebody had come along with incredible wisdom, whether I would have really listened. Because I think, we grow into ourselves, and unfortunately we do it in the spotlight. So when we make mistakes, everybody knows about it. And, it's, you're lucky if you reach the point where you go, okay, you know what I mean? I have a wonderful life. I do this for a living. It's incredible. I fly around the world, stay in beautiful places. People are generally quite sweet to me. What's to complain about? I think you have to get there. And depending on, your upbringing or how sensible you are or who you got around you, that can be an easy process or a very difficult one. It can take time. And it's taken me the best part of 54 years to kind of reach that point where I'm like, I'm very lucky. I'm lucky. I'm blessed, all of those things. And, I wish I could, impart that to other people. But I think when you're young, you don't listen.
You've always seemed to be very confident in your own skin. And we're living in a time where LGBT kids have great role models and whatever to look up to. And I'm not sure if you felt like you came around in that time. When you look at, all the things that are happening,
Yeah.
like even what Cyndi Lauper was doing for tour, like what do you think that the kids of today have? I mean, it's undeniable that they have much more freedom, whatever. But are you kind of not envious, but like, what do you think about this? The type of climate the kids are growing up today?
I think it depends on location, depends on where you're born, where you're living. Some places it's easier to be, yourself. Others it isn't. I think that in the big cities, New York, LA, you have a lot more freedom. People are open-minded. But then when you go into the heartlands, it could get more and more difficult. It also depends on family, what kind of family you got. Can have a lot to do with, faith, all the things that you've been brought up to believe. But I think that, it's wonderful that we're starting to sort of live in the kind of world that I dreamed of living in when I was a kid, I went through some struggles when I was very, very young regarding, it's a weird one with me because I've never felt bad about being gay. I'm not one of those people that says, I wish I'd been born straight. I don't think being gay makes me better or worse. It's just what happened. It's just the cards I was dealt. And I've always been comfortable with that. I wouldn't, and I've joked that I would probably choose to be gay again if I had the chance. Because, that part of it has never been a problem for me. When I was very young, I wanted people to like me. And at school, I used to hear, the names and all of that. So I was aware that whatever I wasn't necessarily popular with everybody. But I was very lucky to have the support of my family. My family I came out when I was 15, 1975, maybe 76. And my family adjusted really quickly to my sexuality. And I have always had their support. When you don't have that, I think that's when it gets difficult. If you haven't got parents or family that, love and support you, then you're really, I think you find it really difficult. But certainly the world is becoming more more open-minded, but not everywhere. I still think there's a lot of work to be done. You know, it's the same with, you know, racial issues, you know, gender, sexuality. There's always going to be people out there who have problems with that. And thankfully, they seem to be getting less and less, but, you know, it's always there. It's always there.
Just a few more questions. I wanted to ask about your performance on stage as far as what it takes out of you. You know, one of the things they talked about with Prince is like, I mean, you don't jump in, you know, in high heels and so forth.
How do you know?
But
I might be working towards that.
But you know, just the strain that sometimes performance takes on you over the years. Have you, you know, what does it take for you to get going, and has it ever been a strain, just the physicality of performing?
I like touring because it's the closest I get to having a sort of regular job. When I'm on tour, no one can bother me, and I use touring to get as healthy and as fit as I can. I'm not one of these people that goes on tour and starts stuffing carbohydrates, and you know, I like to have a ban on like riders. Riders are the evil of live performance, because you have all these things in your dressing room, and if they weren't there, you wouldn't eat them, right? So I don't need them, you know. Try to eat regularly, try to sleep, you know, and remember that, you know, I'm working. When I go on stage, yes, it's a lot of fun, but I have a job to do, and I have to be the best I can be. So, you know, none of that stuff that I probably would have done when I was 19, where I might have stayed out late, gone to a party. I don't do that anymore. I actually make sure that I'm in bed, I'm asleep, and it may not be very rock and roll, but it really works. And, you know, you just always have to remember that you're there to work. It's your job.
Now, you're on social media. How have you embraced that? Yeah.
I find that most people just want me to say happy birthday to their mum or wish them good luck with their exams. I mean, you know, you get the odd person that will write something nasty, and the trick is not to engage with them on any level. Do not respond. Block or mute. Somebody has something nasty to say, you're probably never really going to get on with that person, and you know, you don't really have much of a future with that person. So I always think, and trust me, I'm a Gemini, I love to have the last word. So just that temptation to write back, and you're ugly or whatever, something, you know, to responding to what they've said, you have to avoid it. You have to avoid it. Just block them. Block them, get them out of your life. I mean, that's the one thing. I wish there was a block or a mute button in the real world. But yeah, I think you just got to be, you know, try and put out things that are positive. Talk about things you like. Don't talk about things you don't like. Give airtime to this, you know, talk about music that you love, books that you've read. You know, I do a lot of recipes online. I'm always tweeting about food and things that I've made, and people love that. People love it.
Could there be a Boy George cookbook?
There possibly could, yeah, if we found the right deal. But I like the idea of, I always think of like social networking is, I mean, that's the whole point, social networking. It's about sharing ideas, you know, having fun. And for me, actually, a lot of the people really respond to like food. Food is like everyone has to eat.
Now you got me on food. Now, what do you tend to cook? Like, and are you like great? Are you learning? Like, what?
I'm pretty good. I mean, I'm very good at doing kind of raw food, vegan food, vegetarian food's really my speciality, and that's mostly what I eat. I like juicing. I'm always looking for kind of new, interesting things to juice and concoctions. I like the idea of making things that, like taking a traditional, unhealthy recipe, like I don't know, like, you know, now everybody uses like zucchini instead of like spaghetti. I love that, or like butternut squash. Making things that are like, sort of like something your mum would make, but really healthy. You know, using sun-dried tomatoes and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And just creating things that taste familiar but are good for you. Do you
miss, I mean, I assume that you don't really eat that much carbs then.
No, but, you know, I have my kind of carb days. You know, and I'm like, when I go, I go. When I go, I go. I mean, I can really, who doesn't love bread? I mean, but try to eat like good quality bread. Try to eat something like that's homemade or delicious. But I can't sit here and lie and say I don't ever have cover. I don't ever have French fries and things. I mean, yeah, I do. Absolutely. I love a Snickers bar. Sorry. And they always leave them in hotel minibars.
Yes.
It's like they leave these jumbo ones. It's like, oh my God.
I'm transfixed by your makeup.
Thank you.
By that. Now, do you ever do like if someone's not there, like could you do it yourself? I mean, after years. Or
I can do it myself, but I prefer to get it done. I have a lovely girl called Christine Bateman who travels with me. We're best friends. We're like a married couple. We argue like a married couple. But yeah, I love having my face done. It's so relaxing. Just sit there in your bathrobe, do a thing. Don't talk. Zen out. It's bliss.
And last question, I see your tats and the face tats and so forth. Are you done? Like I feel like when a person gets a tat, like every so often it's like, okay, a new tat.
I have a few spaces on my arms that I need to fill in. But yeah, I think on my arms, definitely I'm not done, but I wouldn't do any more on my face or anything like that. But on my arms, I've got a few little spaces that I'm hoping to fill soon.
Any particular design?
Well, I have a lot of like icons. I have Bowie and Mark Bolan and a few people. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I'll get Nina Simone, maybe Prince. Big Prince fan. It's very sad when we lost Prince. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is a hoax, right? I was really hoping it was a hoax, and it wasn't. But I was really, really, God, that really shook me, Fellow Gemini, and just I'm such a fan of his music. Just he did so many things that I loved. So many songs that I loved. Amazing.
Yeah, and he. What did you think of the Madonna tribute? Everyone's like has their.
We all love Madonna. You know what I mean? And I think. It's a really, the thing about Prince hated anyone doing his songs. So it was like, you're never going to please the man, you know what I mean? But I think she knew Prince. I think it was heartfelt. I think it was a great thing. What I would have done if I was organising that show, I'd have had Madonna do Sign of the Times mixed with Justify My Love. Would have been genius. Do you know what I mean? Because I think there's this tendency when, like Prince was kind of funky. And I think it's a shame they didn't do something a bit more up, a bit more Madonna-fied, because, Madonna, her for the dancing and all of that, and Prince for that as well, It's kind of sad. And it's difficult, once you've heard Sinead O'Connor singing that song, and I've seen her do it a lot, she's quite a good friend of mine, it's beyond. It's beyond, it's heartbreaking. But you know what? I think she did a great job. And, everyone likes to criticise. Madonna ain't got nothing to prove to anyone, has she, really?
One more thing, you said Miss Sinead is a good friend of yours. She was in the news recently.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had a chance.
No, I haven't had a chance, but I'm really glad that she was, I saw that she'd gone missing and I was like, ah! But, she's been found and she's amazing. I mean, I went to see her play a couple of years ago and she is, she embodies all that passion. She's such an incredible performer. It was like, watching her was just such an experience. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Sinead. Huge fan.
Well, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have always loved your music and loved your voice.